G'day guys, it's Rob from TAT. Today we've got a Volkswagen Caravelle behind us, a 5-cylinder engine. As you can see, the head's off, so stick with us and I'll show you why. So this vehicle came towed into us from another reputable workshop who wasn't able to complete the diagnosis on this vehicle. So the symptoms were a single-cylinder misfire, and basically the customer said, sounds like a tractor while it's running. Now, the other workshop already did a bit of a diagnosis. They checked the injectors were all good, adjusted them accordingly. They'd carried out a manual compression test thinking that it might be a mechanical fault. The compression passed, all the cylinders, the compression was good. Carried out a leak down test and all the leak down was good. So, not being able to be sure about what the issue was, they basically said to the customer that we just got to put it back together. We don't know what the issue is. And the customer decided to call us. We've worked on one of the other vehicles before. And in order to get to anything, the intake manifold sits over the whole engine. So a lot of disassembly had to come apart for that. And getting the vehicle in, we thought to ourselves, let's have a quick initial assessment of it. And we could tell it definitely had a single-cylinder misfire. It did sound like a tractor because obviously what we found is that sort of when you had the airbox up, you could feel that the air was coming back at you, pushing back at you. So that was indicative to us of some sort of exhaust restriction. You know, not knowing what that is, we decided to get the pulse sensor, our pressure pulse sensor. For those of you that have one or don't know what it is just on a scope, pressure pulses and vacuum. So we decided to put that on the exhaust, and I'll bring that picture up and I'll show you what we found. We weren't able to sync it to anything, and we didn't really need to. All we wanted to see was, could we see an anomaly? Could we see that there was possibly no, or one particular cylinder is not contributing to the exhaust stream? And as you can see here, we've sort of divided that in our pressure and negative pressure and positive pressure spots divided by 5 by the amount of cylinders. And as you can see, as we sort of go along here, you can see that one of the cylinders is not contributing at all to the exhaust stream. So that was indicative to us of, you know, that combined with the pressure coming back at you with the air intake, you know, we thought to ourselves, you know, do we have a faulty exhaust valve that's not opening for whatever reason that is? Because if you think about it logically, you know, we look at what could cause a mechanical failure of this engine, still have good compression and still pass the leak down test. And that's right. So if we don't have an exhaust valve that's opening, we still are going to have good compression because the exhaust valve's closed, and we're going to pass the leak down test because the exhaust valve's closed. So yeah, that's where we were leaning towards, and we decided to make that decision and tell the customer that that's where it was at. So we ended up pulling it apart. They gave us the authorization. And as you can see here, we went along, and unfortunately we had to sort of just test them one by one because we couldn't prove without a sync which cylinder that was by looking at that pressure pulse. But we decided that we would just go along, and as you can see here, all we do is we just push this bucket down, and we could see that this bucket was failing. So these buckets have a hydraulic lifter inside them, and what happened was we had a good look over it after. We pulled it apart, and as you can see, that the cam was worn, and it just wore down all of the tops of the buckets, and it wore down this particular exhaust valve's bucket way more, and to the point where it had a hole at the top of it, which you can see in this picture. And obviously we lose our hydraulic action, and that's exactly what the failing component was. And at the moment, our head's been sent away to a machine shop. We're going to get a new cam, get the head reconned, and we'll get a whole new set of buckets, and we'll put this vehicle back together, and it will be brand new. But you know, this just goes to show that, you know, whether you have the right tools or not, you know, it's handy to have one of these pressure pulse sensors. You know, it turned a bit of a nightmare diagnosis into a relatively quick diagnosis, because we could put that in the exhaust system and see straight away without tearing anything down that there's definitely an issue with the cylinder not contributing to that exhaust stream. And not only that, it's about having that methodical process and logical process of how the engine works and how the system works, and understanding that an exhaust valve could still be faulty even though your compression is good and the leak down is good. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. A bit of an oddball one here, but this was a satisfying diagnosis, and the customer was really happy with what we did, and I'm sure they'll be back. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.